My name is Belinda Puller, and welcome to Belinda's Corner, a saltwater taffy show. Today we're going to be looking at Animorphs 3, The Encounter, which was released in August 1996. This cover is the only cover whose morph never happens in the novel proper, showing Tobias turning from a human into a hawk. Tobias was a non-morphing nothlit by this point, and thus could not morph at all. This morph last happened in Book 1, The Invasion. That said, this was the first cover of the standard iconic 5-step morphs showing the full bodies of both the human and the animal, and the first one that longtime illustrator David Mattingly worked on. The encounter starts with a unique dedication to the Raptor Center at the University of Minnesota. Tobias was not turned into a red-tailed hawk out of coincidence, at least not in a meta sense. Catherine Applegate allegedly chose a red-tailed hawk due to their habitats spanning across the U.S., the idea being that kids from across the country could look outside, see a red-tailed hawk, and think of Tobias. And she did a lot of research into their lifestyles, with the intent to portray a hawk's life as accurately as humanly possible. The Raptor Center at the University of Minnesota continues its work protecting and educating about raptors and can still be found at the URL listed in the encounter, www.raptor.cvm.umn.edu. Tobias is unlike the narrators who have come before him. His humanity is fading fast, and that's a big part of the encounter. He calls himself a freak of nature as soon as his second sentence, and he says that he doesn't remember what color his eyes were anymore. The opening set piece is Tobias freeing another hawk, demeaningly nicknamed Price Cut Polly, from being used in TV commercials, showing his fierce loyalty to his new species. As an aside, it appears to be a live commercial, and I've never heard of anyone filming a commercial live for television. Did that happen in the 90s? Whatever. Rachel helps him out in this endeavor, an early example of their camaraderie that would later blossom into romance. Tobias sees a Yeerk ship and the gang decides to morph wolves to follow it. They find a massive Yeerk ship in a lake guarded by controller park rangers gathering logistics. The gang's plan is to morph fish to get inside, but Tobias becomes upset after killing a rat and goes into a suicidal frenzy trying to find Rachel. After living some time as a hawkwood, he decides with Rachel that fighting Yeerks keeps him human, and he returns to the team and their plans. The gang then has their adventure on the Yeerk ship after morphing into trout. The main gang's plan ends in failure, but Tobias ends up getting the Taxon pilots to crash the ship. The Animorphs escape, but Polly is killed when the Yeerks mistake her for Tobias. At the end, Tobias realizes that a real hawk wouldn't care if another hawk died, and that his mourning for Polly is what makes him human. The Encounter is Tobias' only book in total hawk mode, and it weighs heavily over the book. Aside from what I mentioned earlier, Tobias explicitly says he's jealous of his friends who get to morph into wolves and gets upset at seeing them morph back into humans. He finds himself attracted to Polly the female hawk and has the urge to eat small mammals. Tobias keeps describing things as predators and prey. His turmoil is palpable. I believe that if they'd kept Tobias human, he'd probably have been a bit too similar to Jake to justify them being separate narrators. Tobias's humanity struggles make not only for a unique read among Animorphs books, but among novels in general. That said, to somewhat play devil's advocate here, I do understand why they didn't want him narrating as many books as the others, and why his next narration book, number 13, The Change, was the book where he got back his morphing powers. The Encounter is a very heavy book, and that's got nothing to do with the fairly bog-standard Yeerk story. And admittedly, there's only so far you can take the I'm losing my humanity stuff before it would have started to make Tobias seem one note. If Tobias had had another book in this mode, it would have made the Encounter feel less special. And as it is, the Encounter feels very special. There's no other book like it in the series. So let's see in 2 weeks if I have such high praises for Animorphs 4, The Message. Subscribe and hit that bell if you want to be notified when that comes out.